This thing finally spins. Okay, it is nicely underway whenever you want to start.
All right. Well, when you think of movies, and at least I do, when you think of the Windsor International Film Festival, immediately think of Vincent Georgie. Vincent has become one of those common names synonymous with movie going and with really propelling our city forward when it comes to film festivals. And so we thought we'd catch up with Vincent. Here we are, wrapping up another year, entering a new year. And it's been quite a year for you, Vincent. Thanks for joining us. Hi.
Mike and Lisa, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a year.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been quite a year. And why don't we start with the Windsor International Film Festival, Vincent? Because, I mean, this thing just keeps growing, and this was a record-setting year that you had.
Yeah, it really was. It was, 11 days this past fall downtown, and really, really proud of it. Almost 45,000 paid tickets for the whole year, which we're thrilled about, obviously. And to see the community come back alive and this just big return, that was really, really nice. It's sort of amazing the things you take for granted that you never would have thought, right, that it wouldn't be possible in past years due to the pandemic. It felt really, really good. And I think, the highlights of our team are seeing people liven up the downtown and the businesses do so well, and people from out of town come in. And actually, those clear comments we got, we had a lot of guest filmmakers come in, a lot of out of town people, was they said, your festival's great, but they said it's your community that actually stands out in your festival because it's so warm-hearted and people are proud, and that's nice.
Yeah, it sure is. Okay, so let's go back to when your love of movies started. I mean,
yeah,
you have to be in love with film in order for you to be as invested as you are and still not tired of seeing a bunch of movies, like really
no, for
over
sure.
the years. So how did this all start with you? Were you a kid and loved films?
Yeah, I remember the day it started, actually. It's really specific. Really? Yeah, it's really specific memory. I remember we'd get, newspaper delivered to the house, and I would see movie posters in the newspaper. And I'm not even sure what it was, but I'm like, oh, this is exciting. It looks impressive. I want to know more about that. And at that point in time, growing up, in the 80s, I mean, we didn't even have a VCR. And then eventually they came out and we rented VCRs from back in the day and all this type of stuff. And I didn't come from a movie going family either. It's not like,
and they were so expensive, Vincent, like VCRs when they first came out, it was crazy, right?
Super expensive. I remember when finally our family got one that was just our own. Well, oh my gosh. So that was great. So rented a lot of movies and always tried to get my parents to take me to movies as well, because my family was not a big movie going family, not at all actually. And I just was fascinated by what I would see on screen and the reactions you could have. But even as a kid, I was actually more interested in telling other people about what I was seeing on screen. I was more interested in connecting other people to it.
Wow.
And the rest is history. I mean, through the years at WIFF, believe it or not, I have had grade school and high school teachers come to the festival from Montreal, from Toronto area, which is amazing, right? And they say they're like, it's ridiculous because this was kind of predictable.
Really?
Yeah. I was the kid getting on the school bus. This is very true. Getting on the school bus, and the other kids are reading comic books or trading sports cards. I would get on with either Leonard Maltin's annual review book that I would read. I'm not making that up. That's how popular I was. Or like Siskel and Ebert's film review book. And I would read that on the bus and I would tell people about it.
Of course, because you wanted to be the reviewer and let people know, listen, you're missing out on a great film, or don't bother seeing this one, or and were you just as much in love with actors and actresses in Hollywood?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I was fascinated by that. I remember the first year I wanted to watch the Oscars, and my mom's like, okay, well, it's on very late. It's past your bedtime, so we'll tape it for you. And I remember the next morning getting up early and watching it, and I watched the VHS so much through the year, the tape eventually broke and burnt.
No way.
And my parents were like, okay, he's really into this. And then the next year, I remember it was the 89 Oscars, Little Mermaid was nominated and Field of Dreams, all these films. And I remember the whole deal was if I went to bed for a nap, I could stay up and watch them live. Well, that was I mean, I couldn't believe it. And then woke up and I would get dressed. I put on like my nicest sweater. And then my family, my mom would prepare like mini egg rolls on the stove. And like,
Wow,
we'd have
big
like,
night.
Mike, there'd be like meatballs. And like, it was a night, right?
Like the Super Bowl, right?
Oh.
Like your own Oscar party.
Absolutely. And then that continued through the years. And my whole family got into it and then had parties years with friends. And then eventually to go to the Oscars, to be there. It's wild. It's absolutely wild to think that it started with, mini egg rolls in the stove at home, and then to actually, be there and wild.
That's pretty awesome. Vincent Georgie with us today here on AM 800. Mike and Lisa, happy holidays, everyone. We're looking back at the year in movies, looking back at the Windsor International Film Festival, talking to Vincent about his passion for the movies. Do you remember the first movie that you went to in the theaters?
100%. It was 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, a classic too.
Such a good one, right? Such a good one. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And my whole family was there. And it's a very clear memory in my mind. 100%. Really enjoyed that. Yeah.
So over the years, obviously, I think you matured from the Dalmatians to
yes
to many other genres. And before we get into maybe your all-time favorite film or whatever, if you have one, which would be very difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite genre? Like what do you most look forward to every year with new releases?
You don't have a police movie on in the background, do you, right now?
No, it's not it's not a police movie. That's real life.
That's real life stuff.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. My favorite genre would be drama. I like conflict and there's high stakes and something's going to happen, and if this person tells this person this secret, there's going to be an issue and they're going to go to jail or some high stakes big thing. I tend to go for a drama. I like big performances and that's what I normally go for, something really, really substantial. But that being said, as I've emerged into, film programming and running a festival, and that I think the most important thing when you're programming is you're picking for other people. So I'm able to I watch over 600 movies a year. Like wow. It's a big number. Yeah. So do the math on that one, right? So when you're doing that, you're shopping for other people, you're cooking for other people. Right. So I can easily watch stuff that I'm like, it's not my style, but I'm like, but that's good, and this is why it's good. Right. And I'll also watch some stuff that I'm like, I'm kind of into that, and then I'll be like, don't know how the audience is going to go with that. I'm not really sure. So you got to be careful how you recommend and that. But it's amazing that it opens up your eyes to so many different types of films that maybe not always your style. Like say for something like fantasy is not always my style. Something like Lord of the Rings, or I admire it.
Yes.
I'm like, this is excellent. Like there's no question this is excellent. I can't quite get into it myself, but I'd recommend it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah.
Okay. So when you are putting together a film festival,
yeah,
and that at the level it is now, and I do want to pick your brain about where you see this going. How does that work? For those who aren't familiar with it, do you, as you say, go and see a bunch of films and then pick and choose which films you want in the festival, or do you have to request, or do you just get what you're given? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. It's definitely not get what you're given. It's definitely, everything is on invite only. So it's like we're hosting a party and we're sending invites out. So that for sure. It is a constant work in that I'm constantly researching the films. I start researching the films from the time it's getting funded. Not even made yet, but I'm like, okay, so that film's going to happen, and they're shooting next year. It'll be ready the year after. Okay, so that film exists, and they've cast, Lisa Williams in it. Okay, so that, okay, great, and then you sort of know where that's going to go.
Oscar winner.
Yeah, absolutely, Oscar winner. Come on, and follow it the whole way, and then I will get sent stuff We'll get invited to stuff, go to other festivals. I've had it where there's screenings that are held where they'll rent a theater and have 9 people there. They take away our phones and that whole bit and make us, let us watch the film early and see if we're interested in this type of stuff. And even say, last night I was at a reception and there was distributors and these types of people talking about their films coming up and pitching to me, and there's this and we're working on that. We just bought this. It's going to be a good one for you.
Wow.
So you hear all about it. So that's really, really fun. And then you invite, but I mean, I end up creating about a master list of about 1,000 titles that we're looking at, whittle it down. And then like last year, we invited 177. So you're really drilling down, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of invite and also negotiations because they don't know
Really?
it's a lot of negotiations for sure, because a lot of films we show aren't even out yet.
Oh,
And
right.
that's a very big
that's
thing.
true. Vincent Georgie with us here on AM 800 for the Windsor International Film Festival, the University of Windsor. Mike and Lisa, happy holidays, everyone. From all of us here at AM 800. And I would think, Vincent, one of the things when you're going through all this and viewing these films is to take your own, I guess, what you're into. You talked about the dramatic movies and the stuff that you like. Because you got to think of everybody, right? Everybody at the Windsor International Film Festival and getting a mix of different movies onto the screen.
Absolutely, Mike. No question. You got to get a mix on the screen. And that's why also, as we're looking at films, we share them with our team, share them with the marketing team, share them with our tech team. What do you think of this? Do you think that could work? Do you think that would play? Some of the hockey films, I'm like, I'll show them to some of my friends who are really into hockey. I'm like, how would this go? All these types of things, you want to get constant feedback because you're programming for your audience. And by us having multiple screens at the festival, like you can be playing a comedy on one screen, a horror film on the other, a musical on the other one, and a documentary on the other. And you sort of, switch it around for people. But yeah, it's a real pleasure to do, and I love it when people come out of a movie that are like, oh, that movie was amazing, or I loved it, I want to recommend it to my friend, or it changed my life, and I'm like, oh, like I'm happy.
One of the best movies I've ever seen was at your film festival, Whiplash, back a few years ago. Loved it.
Such a good movie,
wasn't it?
Such a good movie. And that one, so that was WIFF 2014. And every year, Lisa, I'm glad you mentioned that film. There's always one title that once we secure it, I'm like, okay, we're good. As long as we have that, we can build around it. And Whiplash was that title. Once we got Whiplash, I'm like, it is so strong. It's amazing. It's a film that's widely available for people to watch right now.
Yes.
It won a whole bunch of Oscars, and Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons are in it. It is phenomenal film. Totally agree.
Yep, love it.
Yeah,
You have a favorite from this past year?
I have a personal favorite from this past year at the festival, and it was a movie that some people really loved and some people that really did not like. But I loved it. It was a film called Triangle of Sadness.
Saw it.
Yeah, what'd you think? Love it or hate it?
Okay, no, you know what? I'm a little indifferent, but I'll tell you. But when a movie sticks with you, and you leave the theater and you keep thinking about it, and you wake up the next day and think about it, I was like, I liked it more than I thought I did originally, because it got me thinking. It was the ending, and I'm not used to that. The ending was a little kind of a cliffhanger in a way. It kind of left it up to you to figure out what was going on. Sorry if I gave that away just now.
Yeah,
but,
don't spoilers.
No, I don't know if I really did, but it got you talking. And even after that, I was texting with a friend. It's like, okay, I think this happened. What do you think happened here? What do you think happened here? So that creates conversation. But I can see where people were like, well, that's not fair.
Totally. No, totally. Yeah, got mixed reactions on it for sure. I think one of the other pieces, as with you, it stayed with me. The other part too, connecting back to me watching so many films, I was entertained and I laughed. I love laughing. I love a good comedy. I like a movie that does not bore me. That film entertained me. I was into it the whole time. And that's a real thing. Even I think, big picture over the past year, some of the best films I saw, Top Gun Maverick. Fantastic film.
I saw that one. I can talk about this one. I love
right?
that movie.
Isn't it fantastic? It's super entertaining. It's well done. Tom Cruise is amazing. The whole cast is great. It's That's, I think, a really key thing that's important. You want a film that's excellent, but it's also got to entertain you. It has to be interesting and hold you. And that really, really matters.
Right. I know
Yeah,
my husband.
and one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Vincent, when it comes to movies and our local movie makers here in this area, either if they're making dramas or comedies or documentaries, there seems to be a lot of talent here in Windsor, Essex.
Yes.
No question. We talked about so much, especially this year, the crop of films we had from local filmmakers, without a doubt, was the strongest we've had. When we think of, and they're also really successful, really, really popular. We think of Mike Evans's film, A Year in the Forest, about Ojibwe and all, what have you. Absolutely excellent and beloved and super popular. People absolutely love that film. Nick Shields' new film on Willisted Manor. Yeah. Absolutely amazing film. I thought I knew a fair bit of Willisted Manor. I knew nothing. I watched the film, like, oh, there's way more going on in this that was, I think really, really impactful. One of the university professors, Min Bae, made a film in South Korea called Reset. That film was fantastic. The Boblo Boats film was so popular.
Yeah, and we interviewed the maker of that film on our show. Yeah.
Yeah, just such a great film. And I think what it all shows, one, the level of talent in the community, which is very, very encouraging. And the other piece too, it's awesome that our own community wants to see itself on screen. And that's a sign of a pretty healthy community, actually, that you want to see yourselves up there and tell your own stories about what goes on in our community. It was absolutely excellent to see. And also on the short side, whether it's students coming out of the university's film program, or it's some of our alum, or even, shout out to one of the filmmakers. Her name is Gemma Cunyal. She won the Mark Mascaro 48-hour Flick Fest. She made a film in 48 hours. The films are judged outside of this community. Her film won every award.
Wow.
It won everything. These judges in the US and in Europe judged it and awarded her film all the prizes. That's kind of amazing.
Well, it's encouraging. It really is. Yeah. Okay, so here we are, 2022, bigger and better than ever. WIFF is growing. Where do you see it going, Vincent? How big can we get for the size of the city that we are?
Yeah. I think the areas for us to grow, I don't see us going past 11 days. I think that's a really good, you open on Thursday night, it's kind of a party night, go through the following weekend. I think that's the right recipe. We're firmly committed to downtown. We really value the walkability of the festival. In fact, it's all close, it's easy, it's not complicated. I go to a lot of film festivals. Film festivals can actually be pretty complicated. It's far, and you're taking a cab to the next venue. We don't want to do any of that. We think part of the strength is keeping it all really close and tight. That's a really important piece. I think it's continuing to bring in more and more tourists, more people from across the country and even across North America. I think that's the growth piece. And what we saw this year, we had an enormous amount of industry guests come in. So we put up a $25,000 cash prize for the best Canadian film, brought in all the filmmakers from those films. They were there doing Q&As and meeting with our audience, brought in a jury of our industry guests. I think that's where we can grow, and that really creates the appeal and the excitement around the festival. I think that's the way to grow. And I think the other piece too is keep building experiences around the festival, because people want a vibe. And so with Village, we had a tent party for 4 days, live music, food, what have you. You want that. With Alley, we've now completely finished. That's great. We can activate that. That's, I think, where it can keep really, really growing. But the one thing that we will never lose, that we hold very, very dear, is the vibe and also the social aspect and the intimacy of the festival. It's a social festival. You talk to people, to friends and neighbors, you're in line, you're like, hey, what's going on? We never want to lose that. That's something, that vibe is, I think, part of our strength.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Vincent Georgie for the Windsor International Film Festival with us here on AM 800. Mike and Lisa with you. Happy holidays, everyone. Hope you're enjoying your holiday break. And we'll spend a few more minutes with Vincent here as we, you talk about coming off the film festival this year, the record-breaking numbers and the passion you have in the whole festival. I think everybody with you that helps organize this, and the people that go to it for downtown. I think, we think of so few things, and we think of the negativity of downtown Windsor in the last, 10, 15 years. And I think this is an event to me that shows the possibilities and maybe gives people a ray of hope of what downtown Windsor could be outside just these 11 days.
I really agree. And I think it has to do with bringing down a critical mass of people that are out and about doing things, grabbing a cup of coffee, catching up with friends, that it fills the downtown in a way that it looks like any other great city as it is. And I think when you visit, if you're taking a trip if you're in London, you're in Toronto, you're in Chicago, wherever you're at, I think when you've got crowds, you might not notice some of the social challenges or realities of a city. I don't know that are there issues in downtown Windsor? Absolutely there are. Are the issues different in downtown Windsor than other cities? I don't believe that they are. I think it's because when you don't have necessarily a critical mass of people coming and going, you notice it more. And during WIFF, when you've got that critical mass of people, you've got hundreds of people coming and going at all hours, and you're grabbing a cup of coffee and you're going over here and you're waving the person across the street, it just becomes a very lively city, and you might not notice some of the other challenges. I think that actually I think is the key thing. It's the atmosphere actually by having just a lot of people downtown. I think that makes people safe, makes people calm. We've run into very, very few issues, if at all, ever during the festival. And that's because there's just so many people around.
You did create something, I think it was during COVID, when you couldn't hold WIFF. It was something during the summer, drive-in down at the waterfront. Are you going to continue that kind of thing so that you're sort of having two different functions in a way, two different events?
We really, really love the drive-in. It was our love letter back to the community during a pandemic. We love doing it. We want to keep that as a memory of a specific period of time of, hey, remember when we did that in that bubble? And for us, in all frankness, it'd be very hard to do both because the time the drive-in runs is we're deep in planning of the festival. Right. So that would be, I think, a little bit challenging. The revenue model too is different for the drive-in. But we decided ultimately, we're like, let that be. I'm always of the opinion that you want to go while the party's still good. Yes. We had this beautiful moment of those two drive-ins that everyone's like, oh, that was amazing. I'd rather let that be in people's heart as opposed to do it again and again and have people, not show up year after year. You know what I mean? Just have it change. But yeah, that mixed with, I think it'd be challenging just operationally to do both. We're like, let's pause that. Never say never. Never say never, because I'm going to tell you, Mike and Lisa, we get asked about the drive-in. I mean, regularly
too, right? We can't do that. We can't really do that anymore for the most part.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. The artist, and what's interesting is the amount of like high schoolers and undergrads that came who, for them, they're like, watching a movie in a car? What are you talking about? That, made me feel really old.
Hilarious.
It was right? I think we all can understand a drive-in, but they were like, what is this foreign concept? You're so innovative. I'm like,
you're so innovative.
Someone literally had sent us a message. They're like, it's this innovative concept. I love it. I'm like, actually.
That's so funny. It's funny because it is nostalgia for a lot of us of this age, but you're right. To the younger kids, that's totally foreign. So are VCRs. So are even going to the video store.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Baron or Applause Video has the latest release I want to watch this weekend.
The hopes when you go into that video store and you're like, I hope it's there. Yes. It's the one I want. And then I remember darting. I would know where the film is. I'd get dropped off by my mom. I'm like, I am running in and grabbing that film. Oh, let me tell you, look out if I'm running through a video store to get a film. Look out.
Yeah. And then if it's not there, I guess I'll rent Naked Gun again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Leslie Nielsen? Why not? It's fine. It's fine. Oh my God. Oh my absolutely. Gosh. The video store I used to go to as well, it was an independent one, and it would have 99-cent films. I watched every James Bond movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd spend my allowance. It was fantastic.
Where are we going, Vincent? What is the future of watching movies? Right now, it seems like a lot of the big blockbusters are in theaters for even a week, and then they'll be going to a streaming service after that. Is that kind of the pattern we're going to be in for a while, or do you see it going in a different way in the next few years?
Yeah, I think we're going to be in that pattern for a little bit. I think we've got to nail down the window of time between theatrical and having it be available. Because you're seeing films being available on Netflix or it's part of your subscription, but then you're seeing things being available, what you call PVOD, so premium video on demand, where it's $25 to watch it. So then you get in this tension of, okay, but am I dropping $25 to watch in my living room? And that's not sorted itself out yet. But right now, what's happened in the theatrical space is very much every film has to be heavily eventized, Avatar. That's obviously a big hit over Christmas. And if it's not a big event film, film, you're like, oh, I don't think I have to go to the theater if it's only an event film. I think that's, I think streaming's here with us for a long time. I think what's going to happen, I think we're going to lose a couple of these subscriptions. I don't believe that everybody can
There's
maintain.
too many.
Exactly. Exactly. How many do you each have?
Yeah.
I think that's going to change. I really, really do. But what's interesting is in the industry over the past 10 years, the part of the sector that's grown the most in North America are festivals. Because we're running in the opposite direction because we can bring in new content, premium content, and create more actually experience around the films, which is now different from the movie theater, because the movie theaters are pretty, unless it's a major like Avatar type film, it's just not even going to play.
I love that. Well, you're in the right business then.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
have time for all of this.
Yeah, it's our whole team works year round on it, no question. And I mean, I think a big piece too, me being brought onto the University of Windsor, a university is a house of experts, and they want you to be recognized as experts in your field. My training, my PhD was literally in the marketing of movies. Like that's my background. So never underestimate, I think, the University of Windsor's I think support, not just of me, but I think of all the experts we have in our community that are able to contribute. It's because we're here for the university.
Yeah. And how awesome is it that you had this passion, from a very young age, and now like this is how you make your living and what you do for a living?
Yeah, it's unbelievable that you can, your dreams do come true. You can work on stuff that you really love and really believe in. And that's really the joy of all of it. I think of even, you guys with your show, if you didn't really believe in it, don't you guys get up at like 3:00 in the morning? If you didn't actually believe in what you're doing and see value in it, at some point you're like, no, thanks. It's just too much. But when you actually are into it, it's the best. And I would never want to do it for a community better than Windsor. It's just the amount of gratitude. People are so I meet people in the community that don't go to WIFF, but they're like, but I'm proud of it. I'm glad that happens. That's good. I like
they
it.
know you've
That's
become
a
a Windsor celebrity.
Right.
You should be on the Windsor Walk of Fame, like Vincent Georgie, for what you've done with this. And
your glasses. I love your glasses.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Clark Kent. If he takes glasses off, nobody knows who he is.
Exactly. It's a man of mystery piece, for sure. And you know what I honestly do love? I will get movie recommendations in person at the most random places. I once had someone slow down their car in the parking lot of Devonshire Mall. They didn't stop. They slowed down. They rolled down their window. They yelled a film recommendation and kept driving. I think that's amazing.
That's hilarious.
I think that's amazing.
That's great. It's awesome.
I was marching in the convocation for the university last spring with a prof that I don't know particularly well. And as we're in this very serious and we're in the caps and gowns, they're like, so what should I watch this weekend? I'm debating. My wife wants to watch this, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I marvel at it. Yeah. I'm honestly, I marvel
start
at it.
like a 1-900 Vincent number with movie recommendations. How old school would that be? $1
like
per
Kramer?
minute.
Sure,
welcome to Vincent Phone. Press 1 for comedy, 2 for drama.
I would do it. I would. No word of a lie. On an average weekend, I can get a decent amount of text in that. Like, okay, like I'm going to watch this. What do you think? And it's honestly, it's actually a pleasure. To be honest, actually, one that never gets old, and I never take it for granted. I'm like, the fact that anyone would ever care what I think, it's. I take my work very, very seriously. I don't take myself very seriously. I take the work
that's
seriously.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You are a treasure. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for what you bring to our community. It's something I hope you're very, very proud of. And hey, let's see where we go. It's great. Thanks for talking to us today.
Lisa and Mike, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.